The chains around Lyra's wrists were cold. She stood on the metal platform under harsh white lights that made her purple skin look pale and sickly. Her bioluminescent markings, once bright and beautiful, had not glowed in 3 years. They were dull now, like everything else about her. Around her, dozens of species shouted and gestured. The auction house on Viridian Station smelled like sweat and desperation. Lyra kept her eyes down. Looking at the buyers only made things worse. She had learned that lesson many times. This one is special. The auctioneer called out, his voice booming through speakers. He was a Vortian, tall and insect-like, with clicking mandibles. A Nefarian female, young, empathic abilities fully intact. Starting bid, 5,000 credits. The crowd stirred. Nefarians were rare in the slave markets. Most of her people stayed hidden in their corner of the galaxy, avoiding contact with the brutal species that dominated space. But Lyra had been curious once. She had wanted to see the stars. That curiosity had cost her everything. A fat Grellian merchant raised his hand. 6,000. 7. Shouted a Talvok warrior, his scales gleaming under the lights. Lyra's whole body tensed at the Talvok voice. She hated them most of all. Her last owner had been Talvok. He had taught her what pain really meant. The shock collar around her neck was his favorite toy. Even now, removed from his control, she could still feel the phantom burns. The bids climbed higher. 8,000. 9,000. Lyra wondered what would happen to her next. Would it be worse than before? Could it be worse? She had stopped hoping for better long ago. Then she saw him. A human pushed through the crowd. He was middle-aged, maybe late 40s, with gray streaking through his dark hair. His face was weathered and scarred, with a particularly nasty scar running from his left eyebrow to his jaw. His build was thick and muscular, the kind that came from years of hard labor. His clothes were simple. A worn cargo jacket and work pants covered in stains. Lyra's heart dropped into her stomach. She knew that look. Middle-aged males were always the worst. They had something to prove, some anger buried deep that they took out on slaves. Her Talvok master had been middle-aged. The Grellian before him, too. The human's eyes met hers for just a moment. They were dark and unreadable. Cold, she thought. So cold. 12,000, the human said. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise easily. He spoke Galactic Standard with a heavy accent. The crowd went silent for a moment. That was far more than a Nefarian slave was worth. The auctioneer's mandibles clicked excitedly. 12,000. Do I hear 13? The Talvok warrior who had been bidding shook his head and stepped back. The Grellian merchant laughed loudly. The human can have her. He paid double what she's worth. Other buyers joined in the laughter. Lyra knew what they were thinking. They assumed the human had dark purposes for her. Why else would someone overpay so badly? Humans had a reputation in the galaxy. They were unpredictable, dangerous, emotional in ways that other species found disturbing. Sold. The auctioneer announced. To the human for 12,000 credits. Handlers grabbed Lyra's chains and pulled her off the platform. She stumbled, her legs weak from standing for hours. They dragged her toward the human, who stood waiting with his arms crossed. Up close, he was even more intimidating. He had to be nearly 2 meters tall, and his presence filled the space around him. The auctioneer handed him a small remote control. The collar is keyed to this. Standard shock settings, 1 through 10. Level 5 will discipline her. Level 10 will kill her. Enjoy your purchase. The human took the remote without comment. He looked at it for a long moment, his scarred face showing nothing. Then he looked at Lyra. She waited for it. The first command. The first test of the collar. The first pain. That was how it always started. Come, he said simply. Ship waiting. He turned and walked toward the exit. The handlers unlocked her chains from the auction platform, but left her wrists bound. They pushed her forward. She followed the human because she had no choice. The walk through Viridian Station felt endless. The human walked ahead of her, never looking back, never checking if she followed. Around them, the station bustled with activity. Merchants sold weapons and drugs. Pirates drank in bars. Slaves shuffled past in chains, heading to ships or markets or worse places. Lyra's mind raced. What did this human want? Why had he paid so much? Was he taking her to his ship to hurt her where there would be no witnesses? She had heard stories about humans. Some said they were savage. Others said they were soft-hearted and weak. She did not know which was true. They reached a docking bay. The human stopped at a battered cargo ship. The name Kiansa was painted on the hull in both human letters and Galactic Standard. The ship looked old but well-maintained. Not a slaver ship, Lyra thought. Those were always cleaner, newer. This was a working vessel. The human pressed a button and the cargo ramp lowered. He walked up it. Lyra followed, her bound hands shaking. Inside, the ship smelled like engine oil and something cooking. It smelled normal. Almost nice. Taiyang? A woman's voice called out. You back already? Another human appeared from the corridor. She was younger than the male, maybe early 40s, with sharp eyes and her hair pulled back tight. She wore a captain's jacket. When she saw Lyra, her expression softened. Oh, she said quietly. Another one. The male human, Taiyang apparently, nodded. He pulled the shock collar remote from his pocket. For a moment, Lyra stopped breathing. This was it. He would demonstrate his power now. He would hurt her in front of the other human to establish dominance. Instead, Taiyang walked to a small table and set the remote down gently. He looked at Lyra and spoke slowly, carefully choosing his words in Galactic Standard. Not use this. You free now. Need time? Yes. Understand? Lyra stared at him. Free? That had to be a trick. A lie. Masters always lied at first. Yuna will help you, Taiyang continued, gesturing to the female human. Take you to room. Private room. Door no lock. You safe here. The woman, Yuna, smiled at Lyra. It was a sad smile, understanding. Come on, sweetie. Let me get those chains off you. You must be exhausted. Lyra did not move. She could not process what was happening. This had to be some elaborate game. Some new form of cruelty she had not experienced before. Taiyang seemed to understand her fear. He took several steps backward, putting distance between them. He kept his hands visible and open. I know you scared, he said softly. His rough voice somehow sounded gentle. Take time. We no hurt you, promise. Then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there with the shock collar remote sitting on the table. Within her reach. Unguarded Yuna approached slowly, her hands out. Let me help with those chains, okay? Just the chains. Nothing else. Lyra sat on the edge of the small bed in her room, staring at the door. It was unlocked, just as Taiyang had said. She had checked it 17 times in the first hour. Each time it opened easily. No lock. No trap. She did not understand. 3 days had passed since Taiyang bought her at the auction. 3 days of waiting for the cruelty to begin. But it never came. Instead, Yuna brought her food 3 times a day. Real food, not the nutrient paste slaves usually got. Rice and vegetables and strange human dishes that were actually quite good. The room was small but clean. It had a bed, a small desk, and a private bathroom. The bathroom was what shocked Lyra most. Privacy was not something slaves received. Yet here she was alone, with a door that locked from the inside. On the first night, she had not slept. She sat against the wall, watching the door, expecting Tai Yang to enter. But he never did. She heard his footsteps pass by several times, but he never stopped. Never even paused. Now, on the third day, Lyra felt brave enough to explore beyond her room. She opened the door carefully and stepped into the corridor. The ship hummed quietly around her. She could hear voices coming from somewhere ahead. She followed the sound to a common area. It was a combined kitchen and living space. Yuna stood at a cooking station, stirring something in a pot. A young human male, maybe early 20s, sat at the table working on a datapad. He looked up when Lyra entered and gave her a bright smile. "Hey, you came out. I'm Jiho." He spoke Galactic Standard much better than Tai Yang, with barely an accent. "Want some tea?" "Yuna makes really good tea." Lyra hesitated in the doorway. Jiho's friendly tone confused her. Slaves were not offered tea. They were not spoken to like equals. "It's okay," Yuna said, without turning from her cooking. "Come sit down. You must be tired of that tiny room." Slowly, Lyra moved to the table and sat down. Jiho poured her a cup of steaming liquid from a pot. The smell was pleasant, floral, and sweet. "Try it," Jiho encouraged. "It's called chrysanthemum tea. My mom used to make it all the time." Lyra picked up the cup carefully. The warmth felt good against her hands. She took a small sip. It tasted like flowers and honey. "Good, right?" Jiho grinned. "So, I should probably explain some things. You're probably super confused." That was an understatement. Lyra nodded. "Tai Yang is my uncle. Well, adopted uncle. Yuna is my mom, also adopted. They found me when I was 10, floating in an escape pod after pirates killed my birth parents." Jiho's smile faded a bit at the memory, then returned. "Anyway, Tai Yang has this thing he does. Whenever he saves up enough money, he goes to slave auctions and buys people. Then he frees them." Lyra's hand froze halfway to her mouth with the teacup. "Freeze them?" "Yup, you're number 43. Jiho counted on his fingers. "Let's see. Before you, there was a Vexian family. A couple of Grellian kids. A Korthian warrior who actually cried when Tai Yang gave him his freedom. And, Jiho, you're overwhelming her," Yuna interrupted gently. She brought a plate of food to the table and set it in front of Lyra. "Eat, then we can talk." Lyra looked at the food. Fresh vegetables, rice, some kind of grilled protein. Her stomach growled loudly. She had been eating what Yuna brought to her room, but this looked even better. "Why?" Lyra asked quietly. "Why does he do this?" Yuna's expression darkened. She sat down across from Lyra. "Our parents were taken by slavers when Tai Yang was 15 and I was 12. We were living on a colony world, just a normal family. Then raiders came. They killed our mother when she tried to protect us. They took our father and sold him. We never found out where. Tai Yang fought them," Jiho added. "Even at 15. He has that scar on his face because he tried to stop them with a piece of metal pipe. Took on 5 armed raiders by himself. Obviously he lost," Yuna continued. "But he survived. We both did. We ended up in an orphanage on Earth. Taiyan worked from the age of 16, doing the hardest jobs he could find. Saved every credit. By the time he was 20, he had enough to buy a ship. We've been hauling cargo ever since." Lyra processed this information slowly. "And the money he uses to buy slaves?" "Every credit he can spare," Yuna said. "The money he paid for you was supposed to fix our engine. It's failing. We're running on borrowed time, before it gives out completely. But when Tai Yang saw you on that auction block, saw how scared you were, he couldn't walk away. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She tried to stop them, but they came anyway. For 3 years, no one had shown her kindness. No one had cared about her fear or her pain. And now this human, this scarred and silent man, had given up his ship's safety to free her. "Hey, it's okay," Jiho said softly. "You're safe now." "Really safe? Where is he?" Lyra asked. "Tai Yang?" "Cargo bay," Yuna answered. "He's always in the cargo bay. Working, fixing things, organizing. He doesn't sleep much." Lyra stood up. She needed to see him. Needed to understand. "Second corridor on the left. Take it all the way down," Jiho directed. Lyra walked through the ship, following the directions. The cargo bay was huge, taking up nearly half the vessel. Containers were stacked neatly, secured with magnetic locks. In the center of it all, Tai Yang worked on a piece of machinery. His jacket was off, and she could see how his muscles moved under his shirt as he lifted a heavy component. He did not notice her at first. He was completely focused on his work. Lyra watched him for several minutes. There was something methodical and careful about the way he moved. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was wasted. Finally, she cleared her throat. Tai Yang looked up surprised. He set down his tools and stood, immediately stepping back to give her space. Even now, he was conscious of not frightening her. "You need something?" he asked in his careful, accented galactic standard. "Why?" Lyra's voice cracked. "Why did you save me?" Tai Yang was quiet for a long moment. He looked at his scarred hands, covered in engine grease. "Because no one saved my father," he said finally. "Because I know what it's like. To be helpless. To be property." He looked up at her. "Because I can. So I should." "Your ship needs repairs," Lyra said. "Yuna told me. You could have fixed it instead. Ship can wait. You could not." "But I'm nothing," Lyra whispered. "Just one person. One slave among millions." Tai Yang shook his head firmly. "No such thing as just one person. Every person matters. Every freedom matters." He picked up a rag and started cleaning his hands. "I cannot save everyone. I know this. But I can save one. Then another. Then another. 43 times so far. Maybe someday 44. Lyra felt something crack inside her chest. Something that had been frozen for 3 years. Hope, she realized. It was hope. "The caller," she said. "The remote. It's still on the table where you left it. I know. You could control me with it. I could. I will not. How do I know you won't change your mind?" Tai Yang met her eyes directly. "You do not know. I am stranger. You need time to trust. That okay. Take all time you need." He picked up his tools again and returned to his work, giving her space. Lyra stood there, watching him. This human, this unexpected savior, asking nothing from her, expecting nothing, just offering freedom. For the first time in 3 years, Lyra's bioluminescent markings flickered. Just a tiny pulse of light, barely visible. But it was there. Tai Yang noticed. He smiled, just a small quirk of his scarred lips. "Good," he said quietly. "That good sign?" 2 weeks passed aboard the Kiansa. Lyra found herself settling into a routine. She woke up when she wanted, ate meals with the crew, and helped where she could. At first, the helping was small things. Cleaning dishes, organizing supplies, simple tasks that made her feel useful. But gradually, she became part of the crew. Jiho taught her how to read the navigation charts. Yuna showed her how to cook human food. Tai Yang never asked her to do anything. But she noticed when things needed doing in the cargo bay and started doing them. Her markings glowed more each day. The purple lines across her arms and face pulsed with soft light when she felt happy or calm. It was a Nefarian trait, bioluminescence tied to emotion. For 3 years, those markings had been dark. Now they lit up the corridors when she walked past. "You're healing," Una told her one evening. They were preparing dinner together. "I can see it in how you move. You're not flinching anymore." Lyra paused in cutting vegetables. It was true. She had stopped waiting for the pain, stopped expecting cruelty. The Kiansa felt safe. The crew felt like family, though she barely dared to think that word. "Where are we going?" Lyra asked. They had been traveling for weeks, but no one had told her the destination. "Nefarian space," Una said. "The nearest settlement. We have cargo to deliver nearby, and we figured you'd want to go home." Home. Lyra had not thought about home in years. Her people would welcome her back. They would help her heal. She could live peacefully among her own kind again, away from the brutal species that filled the galaxy. But the thought of leaving the Kiansa made her chest hurt. Before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. Jiho's voice came over the intercom, tight with fear. "We've got incoming. Talvok raiders, 3 ships. They're demanding we stop and prepare to be boarded." Lyra's blood turned to ice. Talvok, the species that had enslaved her. The species whose cruelty she knew too well. Una grabbed Lyra's arm. "Come on, we need to get you hidden." They ran through the corridors. Taiyang emerged from the cargo bay, carrying a heavy plasma rifle. His face was grim. "No hiding," he said firmly. "They tracked us. They know she here. How?" Una demanded. "Someone at auction recognized me. Probably told Talvok I'm buying slaves again." Taiyang checked his weapon. "They want make example of us." The ship shuddered as the raiders' weapons struck the shields. Jiho's voice came over the intercom again. "Shields at 60%. They're not going to hold." Lyra felt panic rising in her throat. She could not go back. She would rather die than be enslaved again. Her hands shook uncontrollably. Taiyang noticed. He stepped closer, but did not touch her. "You stay behind me. Understand? I protect you." "You cannot fight 3 ships," Lyra whispered. "Watch me." There was steel in his voice. Another impact rocked the ship. The shields were failing. The Talvok were experienced raiders. They knew how to disable a cargo vessel. Una took up position at one entrance to the cargo bay. Jiho abandoned the cockpit and ran to join them, grabbing a weapon from the armory. The 3 humans formed a defensive position. "Lyra, get behind the cargo containers." Una shouted. Lyra stumbled backward, her legs barely working. The fear was overwhelming. She could hear the Talvok ships attaching to the hull, could hear the cutting torches starting to burn through the airlock. She hid behind a large container and curled into a ball. This was it. They were going to take her back. They were going to kill Taiyang and his family for daring to free her. This was all her fault. If Taiyang had just fixed his engines instead of buying her freedom, they would not be here. The airlock exploded inward. Talvok warriors poured through, their scales gleaming, their weapons raised. There were at least a dozen of them. "Surrender the Nefarian slave." Their leader roared. "And we might let you live." Taiyang fired. His shot took down the first warrior. Una and Jiho opened fire as well. The cargo bay erupted into chaos, but the humans were outnumbered. For every Talvok they dropped, 2 more pushed forward. Lyra watched in horror as Taiyang took a plasma burn to his shoulder. He grunted in pain but kept firing. kept standing between the raiders and Lyra's hiding spot. "Stay down," he shouted at her, his voice rough with pain. A warrior got past Yuna and charged toward Lyra's position. She screamed, pressing herself against the container. But Taiyang threw himself in front of the warrior, taking a hit meant for her. They crashed to the ground together. Lyra watched the human who had saved her, the man who asked nothing of her, bleeding on the floor of his ship. Protecting her with his body, something broke inside her. Not the thing that had broken 3 years ago when they first enslaved her. Something different. The part that had accepted being a victim. The part that had learned helplessness. She stood up. Her markings blazed with light, brighter than they had ever been. The nefarian empathic abilities that had been used to torture prisoners now flooded. Through her with purpose, Lyra reached out with her mind and grabbed. Every Talvok in the cargo bay. She showed them. Fear. Not just any fear. Their deepest, darkest terrors. She pulled from their minds every nightmare, every childhood fear, every moment of weakness they had buried. And she amplified it. She made them feel what she had felt every day for 3 years. Helplessness, terror, the certainty that death was coming and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The Talvok warriors screamed. Not roars of battle, but screams of pure panic. They dropped their weapons and ran, stumbling over each other in their desperation to escape. Some curled into balls on the floor. Others clawed at the walls. Their leader tried to fight it, tried to push through the mental assault. Lyra focused on him specifically. She showed him his own death in 1,000 different ways. She showed him being enslaved, being collared, being sold on an auction block. He broke. Tears streamed down his scaled face as he fled back to his ship, his warriors following in a panicked mob. Within minutes, the Talvok ships detached and jumped hyperspace, their fearless warrior crews now broken and terrified. Lyra collapsed. The effort had drained her completely. She had never used her abilities like that, had never even known she could. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. Taiyang, despite his injuries, held her carefully. "You okay?" he asked, his voice full of concern. Lyra looked up his scarred face. Blood ran from the plasma burn on his shoulder. He had been willing to die for her. This human she had feared, who had overpaid for her freedom, who asked nothing in return. "You saved me," she whispered. Taiyang shook his head slightly. "No, you save us. You save everyone." Tears streamed down Lyra's glowing face. "You taught me how. You showed me that I could choose to fight instead of just survive." Yuna and Jiho rushed over. Yuna immediately started treating Taiyang's wound, while Jiho checked on Lyra. "That was incredible," Jiho said, awe in his voice. "I've never seen Talvok warriors run like that. Are you hurt?" Yuna asked Lyra while wrapping Taiyang's shoulder. "Just tired," Lyra managed. The exhaustion was overwhelming, but it was good exhaustion. The exhaustion of someone who had fought back, and Taeyang met her eyes. Despite his pain, he smiled. It was the first real smile she had seen from him. It transformed his scarred face, making him look younger, kinder. "Proud of you," he said simply. Those 3 words meant everything. Lyra realized she had not just found freedom on this ship. She had found family. She had found people worth fighting for. And she had found a strength inside herself she never knew existed. The victim had become a warrior. And it had all started with a middle-aged human who paid too much for a slave. He intended to free. The story spread across the galaxy like wildfire. A human cargo crew and a freed Nefarian slave had humiliated an entire Talvok raiding party. The warriors, known throughout space for their brutality and fearlessness, had fled screaming from a single empath. In slave pens across a dozen systems. The story brought hope. In underground networks that helped escape slaves, Tai Yang became a legend. They called him the Silent Liberator. 43 freed, they whispered. And now he had a Nefarian warrior fighting at his side. But legends came with consequences. The Kiansa limped through space, its engines struggling. Jiho had managed to patch the damage from the raiding, but the main drive was failing just as Yuna had predicted. They needed repairs desperately, but they were still 3 days from the nearest station. We should have fixed the engines first, Lyra said quietly. She sat in the common area with Yuna, watching the older woman work on navigation charts. You would be safe if Tai Yang had not bought my freedom. Yuna looked up sharply. Don't you dare think like that. Tai Yang made his choice. He'd make it again. But your ship is just a ship. It can be fixed. You couldn't wait. Yuna reached across and squeezed Lyra's hand. Besides, you saved us back there. I'd say it worked out. Lyra was not convinced. The guilt sat heavy in her chest. These people had given her everything, and all she had brought them was danger. The door slid open, and Tai Yang entered. His shoulder was bandaged, but he moved normally. Humans healed quickly, Lyra had learned. It was one of the things that made them formidable. News, Tai Yang said, his face more grim than usual. He activated the communications console. Message from contact. Listen. A distorted voice came through. Tai Yang, it's Mako. You need to know the Talvok Empire has issued an official warrant for your arrest. All of you. They're calling the incident at your ship a terrorist attack. They've dispatched Admiral Vex and a battle group to hunt you down. Yuna swore in Korean. Chiho, who had been in the cockpit, came running. Admiral Vex? Chiho's face went pale. That's bad. Really bad. Who is Admiral Vex? Lyra asked. A fanatic, Yuna explained. He believes absolutely in Talvok's superiority. He's brutal, efficient, and he never gives up. If he's been tasked with hunting us, he won't stop until we're dead or captured. The message continued. The warrant is galaxy-wide. They're offering a massive bounty. And Tai Yang, they know about the other freed slaves. They've connected you to at least 20 disappearances from slave markets. They're calling you an enemy of the Empire. Tai Yang turned off the message. He looked at Lyra. This because of you. Because you fought back. Talvok cannot accept this shame. Lyra stood up, her markings flickering with distress. Then I'll go back. I'll turn myself in. They want me, not you. No. Tai Yang's voice was iron. Sit down, but no trade lives. Family stays together. He looked at Yuna and Jiho. We all agree. Yes, Yuna nodded firmly. Jiho grinned despite the danger. Obviously. We're not giving up Lara. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. You barely know me. You would die for me? Would die for what right? Tai Yang corrected. Cannot let Talvok win. Cannot let them make people into property. We fight. Against a battle group? Lyra's voice rose. With a failing engine and 3 fighters against dozens of warships? Jiho moved to his console and started typing rapidly. Maybe we don't have to fight alone. I'm sending distress signals to both human and Nefarian territories. We're close enough to the border that both might respond. Will they help? Lyra asked. Don't know, Yuna admitted. Humans and Nefarians aren't enemies, but we're not exactly allies either. Your people prefer isolation, and human space doesn't usually get involved in slavery issues outside our borders. But this is different, Gio said, still typing. This isn't just about slavery anymore. This is about the Talvok Empire attacking civilians. And it's about humans freeing slaves. That's a political statement. Lyra understood then. Tai Yang's simple act of buying her freedom had grown into something larger. It challenged the entire system that allowed slavery to exist. It showed that humans, despite being relatively new to galactic politics, were willing to fight for moral principles. The ship shuddered. Alarms blared. They found us. Jiho shouted. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Talvok military configuration. Tai Yang moved to the weapons console. How many? 8 warships. No, wait, 12. They're forming a perimeter. Jiho's fingers flew across the controls. They're not attacking yet. They're just surrounding us. A communication request came through. Yuna activated it. The screen showed a Talvok in full military regalia. His scales were scarred from countless battles, and his eyes held no mercy. I am Admiral Vex of the Talvok Imperial Fleet. You are surrounded. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. The humans will face trial for theft of Imperial property. The Nefarian will be returned to her rightful owners. Tai Yang stepped into view of the camera. No. Admiral Vex's eyes narrowed. You are in no position to refuse. You have 1 damaged cargo vessel. I have 12 warships. This is not a negotiation. Still no. Tai Yang's scarred face showed no fear. Lyra is free person, not property. Will not give her back? You dare to lecture me on law? Slavery is legal in Talvok space. She was legally purchased, and you stole her. I bought her. Paid full price. Tai Yang crossed his arms. Then I freed her. This also legal. Admiral Vex slammed his fist on his console. You humiliated my warriors. You turned them into cowards. For this alone, you will die slowly. Your warriors attacked us. We defended ourselves. With forbidden psychic attacks. The Nefarian used her abilities as a weapon. Lyra stepped into frame beside Tai Yang. Her markings blazed with light. I used my abilities to survive. Something you cannot understand because you have never been helpless. Never been property. The Admiral's face twisted with rage. Brave words from a slave. Let us see how brave you are when you watch this human die before I collar you again. She not slave, Tai Yang said quietly. She is family. Vex laughed, a harsh sound. Family? You've known her for weeks. She is livestock that you've grown attached to. Very well. I will give you 1 chance. Surrender now, and I will kill you quickly. Refuse, and I will make you watch as I break her spirit all over again before I finally end your lives. Tai Yang looked at Lyra. She looked back at him. In his dark eyes, she saw determination, acceptance of whatever came next. But no fear. We refuse, they said together. Admiral Vex's expression turned cold. Then you die together. Charge weapons. Prepare to fire on my command. The screen went dark. Around the Keonsa, 12 Talvok warships powered up their weapons arrays. The light from their charging plasma cannons painted the ship's hull in deadly colors. Jiho's console beeped frantically. Tai Yang, I'm getting responses to the distress signal. Multiple ships are jumping into the system. Ours? Yuna asked hopefully. I don't know yet. Scanning now. The space around them rippled as ships dropped out of hyperspace. Lyra held her breath. Then she saw the markings on the hulls. Human ships bearing Earth's flag, Nefarian vessels with the collective symbol. They came, Jiho whispered in awe. Both of them came. A human ship, sleek and powerful, moved to position itself between the Keonsa and the Talvok fleet. Its communication came through. This is Ambassador Suyun of the Human Diplomatic Corps. The vessel Keonsa is under our protection. Any attack on it will be considered an act of war against Earth. A Nefarian ship, beautiful and organic in design, took position on the other side. This is Speaker Talani of the Nefarian Collective. We claim Lyra as our citizen. Any harm to her will be answered. Admiral Vex appeared on screen again, his face purple with rage. You risk war over a cargo hauler and a slave? Ambassador Suyun's face appeared on a split screen. She was elegant, composed, dangerous. We risk war over principles, Admiral. Slavery is illegal in human space. When humans free slaves, we support them. Always. And the Nefarian female is our kin, Speaker Talani added. We will not abandon her to your cruelty. The standoff was complete. 12 Talvok warships faced off against a combined human and Nefarian fleet that had just arrived. The silence stretched across space. 3 fleets faced each other. The Talvok battle group, 12 warships strong. The human diplomatic escort, 6 ships but heavily armed. The Nefarian protection fleet, 5 vessels built for defense. Inside the Kiansa, Lyra watched the standoff develop. Her markings pulsed with anxiety. This had started with one man paying too much for a slave. Now it had escalated to the brink of interstellar war. This is my fault, she whispered. Tai Yang, standing beside her at the communications console, shook his head. No, this is Talvok's fault. They make slavery legal. They make cruelty normal. This was always coming. On the view screen, Admiral Vex looked between the human and Nefarian ships. His scaled face showed calculation. He was outnumbered now, but only slightly. A battle could go either way, and the Talvok Empire's pride demanded satisfaction. You would start a war over this? Vex asked Ambassador Suyun. The human diplomat's expression was calm but firm. We would end slavery. If that requires war, so be it. Humans do not compromise on this issue. The Nefarian Collective has avoided conflict for centuries, Vex said, turning to Speaker Talani. You would break that tradition now? Speaker Talani's voice was soft, but contained steel. We have been passive too long. Our people have suffered because we chose peace over justice. No more. If you harm Lyra, you harm all Nefarians. We will respond. Admiral Vex's hands clenched. Lyra could see him weighing his options. Attack and risk war. Retreat and accept humiliation. Neither choice sat well with his pride. I have my orders, Vex said finally. The Nefarian slave must be returned. The human terrorists must face justice. I will not return to the Empire empty-handed. Then you will not return at all, Ambassador Suyun said quietly. The Talvok warship's weapons charged to full power. The human and Nefarian ships responded in kind. The space between the fleets crackled with tension. Lyra made a decision. Open a channel, she told Jiho. Broadcast to all ships, including the Talvok fleet. Lyra, what are you doing? Yuna asked, ending this. Lyra's markings blazed bright. Before good people die for me. Jiho hesitated, then opened the channel. Lyra stood before the camera, her glowing markings making her look almost ethereal. I am Lyra of the Nefarian people. I was enslaved for 3 years. I know what it means to be property, to be hurt and broken and made to feel less than nothing. Her voice was steady, clear. But I also know what it means to be freed, to be treated with kindness, to be called family by those who owe me nothing. She paused, gathering her strength. Then she reached out with her empathic abilities, not to attack, but to share, to show that every person on every ship suddenly felt what she felt. They experienced her memories. The auction block, the fear when she saw Tai Yang, the confusion when he set down the shock collar remote. The first time Eunice smiled at her. The first time Jiho made her laugh. The moment Tai Yang took a plasma burn meant for her. They felt her terror during the Talvok raid, her decision to fight, her realization that she had found family. But Lyra did not stop there. She pushed further, broadcasting with more power than she had ever used. She reached into the Talvok fleet itself, into the minds of every warrior and officer. She showed them what slavery really meant, not from the perspective of the masters, but of the enslaved. She shared every moment of pain, every degradation, every loss of dignity. She made them feel it as she had felt it. And then she showed them the alternative, the moment of freedom, the kindness of strangers, the possibility that strength could be used to protect rather than to dominate. On the Talvok flagship, Admiral Vex staggered. His crew around him gasped and cried out. They were feeling, truly feeling, what their empire built its wealth upon. Some of them broke. They had committed these acts, inflicted this suffering. Feeling. It from the other side shattered something in their minds. They fell to their knees, weeping. Others fought it, tried to reject the empathic broadcast. But Lyra was not attacking them. She was simply showing them truth. And truth was harder to fight than fear. Admiral Vex's face twisted. He tried to give the order to fire, but his voice would not come. The weight of what he had just felt pressed down on him. In a Talvok fleet, something unprecedented happened. The crews began to refuse orders. Not all of them, but enough. Engineering officers shut down weapon systems. Tactical officers deleted firing solutions. Even some of the warriors put down their weapons. A junior officer on Vex's flagship stood up. I cannot do this. Not after feeling what we've done. I will not kill these people. Mutiny! Vex roared. I'll have you. You'll have me what? The officer interrupted. Enslaved? I know what that means now. We all do. More officers stood, then crew members. Within minutes, Admiral Vex stood alone in his command, his crew having quietly, peacefully, refused to follow him into battle. On the other Talvok ships, the same scene played out. Not a violent mutiny, but a quiet revolution. The crews had felt the truth, and they could not unhear it. Lyra collapsed. The effort of broadcasting to so many minds across such distance drained her completely. She fell backwards, and once again, Taiyang caught her. Why? He asked softly, lowering her to a chair. You could have died, using power like that. You would do the same, Lyra whispered. Her markings flickered weakly. You taught me. One person matters. Every freedom matters. Yuna brought water and medicine. Jiho monitored the tactical situation, his eyes wide. The Talvok ships are powering down, Jiho reported. They're not retreating, but they're not attacking either. Their crews are in chaos. On the view screen, Admiral Vex appeared one final time. His face was no longer full of rage. Instead, he looked tired. Old, broken. What have you done? He asked Lyra. Shown you the truth, she answered weakly. What you do with it is your choice. Vex looked at his crew, many of whom were openly crying. He looked at the human and Nefarian fleets, who had been willing to risk war for principles. He looked at Taiyang, the scarred human who had started all of this by caring about one slave. I cannot return to the Empire with this, Vex said quietly. My crew will be executed for refusing orders. I will be stripped of rank and killed. Then don't return, Ambassador Suyun said. Human space offers asylum to those fleeing persecution, even to Talvok. The Nefarian Collective extends the same offer, Speaker Talani added. Vex was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I need to think. My crew needs time. He looked directly at Lyra. I have spent my life believing in Talvok's superiority. You showed me I was wrong. I do not know what I believe anymore. That's a start, Taiyang said. The Talvok fleet withdrew, not in retreat but in confusion. They jumped to a nearby system to regroup and decide their futures. The crisis was over. Ambassador Suyun contacted the Kiansa directly. That was extraordinary. The Nefarian broadcast, they're already calling it. It will change things across the galaxy. I just wanted to stop the fighting, Lyra said. You did more than that. You showed the truth about slavery to those who enforce it. Some will reject it, but others will change. The ripples from this will spread for years. Speaker Telany's image appeared beside Suyun's. Lyra, the Nefarian Collective wishes to welcome you home. We have prepared a ceremony in your honor. You will be celebrated as a hero. Lyra looked at the Nefarian speaker. Then she looked at Tai Yang, at Yuna, at Jiho, her family. I am honored, Lyra said carefully. But I need to ask something first. Anything, Speaker Telany said. Can citizenship be given to non-Nefarians? To those who have proven themselves worthy? Tai Yang's eyes widened. Yuna smiled. Jiho grinned. Speaker Telany looked surprised, then pleased. It is rare, but yes. Why do you ask? Because my family needs recognition. Tai Yang has freed 43 slaves. He spent his life savings to save me. His sister and nephew risk everything to support him. If the Nefarian Collective truly honors what I did, then honor those who taught me how to do it. Ambassador Suyun laughed. I can arrange human citizenship as well, though I suspect they'll want to keep hauling cargo. Tai Yang looked uncomfortable with the attention. Just doing what right. Exactly, Lyra said. She stood, steadying herself against the console. You do what is right, every time, no matter the cost. You're the true hero here. You and your family. The diplomatic channels buzzed with activity. Offers of repair facilities for the Kiansa. Rewards for the crew. Honors and ceremonies. But Tai Yang waved most of it away. Just fix engine. That's all we need. 3 days later, the Kiansa sat in a Nefarian orbital station. The engines were repaired, better than new. The hull damage was fixed. Supplies were loaded. The ship looked almost respectable. Lyra stood in the cargo bay, the same place she had cowered in fear weeks ago. The same place she had made her stand against the Talvok raiders. Now it was just a cargo bay again, clean and ready for the next journey. Tai Yang found her there. He carried 2 cups of the chrysanthemum tea Jiho loved to make. You could stay, he said, offering her a cup. Nefarian Collective wants you. Safe there. Honored there. Lyra took the tea and smiled. I could, but I won't. Why not? You freed 43 slaves. You need to remember them all, you said. That's a lot of names. Tai Yang's scarred face softened. You want to help? I want to be family. Really, truly family. I want to help you free 44, 45, and beyond. I want to be the strength you need, like you were the strength I needed. She paused, then added quietly. I feared you when I first saw you. I thought middle-aged humans were cruel. But you proved me wrong. You showed me that appearances mean nothing. That true strength is protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Let me help you do that. Tai Yang was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, that rare genuine smile that transformed his whole face. Family gets bigger, he said. Family stays together, Lyra finished. They drank their tea in comfortable silence. Outside, the galaxy continued its chaotic dance. Empires rose and fell. Slaves suffered in darkness. But in one small cargo ship, a family of 4 prepared to make a difference, one person at a time, one act of courage at a time, one freedom at a time. The Kiansa undocked from the station and turned toward the stars. There were more slaves to free, more lives to change, more families to build. And this time, the silent liberator would not work alone. He had a Nefarian warrior at his side, glowing bright with hope and determination. The middle-aged human, who everyone had feared, had become exactly what the galaxy needed. A savior who asked nothing in return. A hero who measured success in individual lives, saved rather than grand victories. 1.40-3 freed. And counting. The story was just beginning.